This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, welcome everyone to the July 4th, 2024 Land Use Servicing Committee meeting of the Calgary Metropolitan Region Board. This meeting, as ever, is being streamed and also
This
recorded.
conference will now
Should the
be
live streaming
recorded.
fail for any reason, we will endeavor to bring it back
Welcome
online. If we can't do that, we will rely on the recording as evidence of having this meeting in public session. I will turn it over to Kara from the City of Calgary to provide us with a land
This
report.
conference will
Go ahead.
now
Should the
be
live
recorded.
streaming fail for any reason, we will endeavor to bring it
Good
back.
morning, everybody. This is the official land acknowledgement of the City of Calgary, and it goes like this. The City of Calgary, where the Bow and Elbow Rivers meet, was historically a place of confluence, where the sharing of resources, ideas, and opportunities naturally come together. Long before Scottish settlers named it Calgary, the original indigenous nations of this area had their own names for the land. In the Blackfoot language, it is called Mohkinstsis. The Ithaca Nakota Wiskatabi First Nations refer to this place as Wichispa Oyade, and the people of the Tsuut'ina Nation call it Gutstis. The Métis call the Calgary region Otoskawani. We would like to take this opportunity to appreciate and acknowledge that we are gathered on the ancestral and traditional territory of the Blackfoot Confederacy, made up of the Siksika, the Piikani, the Amska-Piikani, and the Kainai First Nations. The Ithaca Nakota Wiskatabi First Nations, comprised of the Chiniki, Bearspaw, and Goodstoney First Nations, and the Tsuut'ina First Nation. The City of Calgary is also homeland to the historic Northwest Métis and to the Otimskawa Métis government, Métis Nation Battle River Territory, Nose Hill Métis District 5, and Elbow Métis District 6. We acknowledge all Indigenous people who have made Calgary their home.
Thank you, Councillor Kara. All right, we're on to adoption of our agenda. We have a relatively brief agenda today, although a couple of important things to discuss as always. You've had an opportunity to review the agenda. Anyone wish to make any edits, amendments, changes, or updates to the agenda for today? And if there are none, I will take a motion, please, to approve the agenda. Deputy Reeve Waldorf, thank you very much. Do we have a second? We'll go Councillor Robinson, thank you very much. Any debate or discussion on that? And anyone wishing to vote opposed to adoption of the agenda? Seeing, hearing none, that carries. Thank you. Same question now for the minutes from our meeting of 6th of June, 2024. Any changes, questions, or comments on the minutes from our previous meeting? And if none, I will invite a motion, please, to adopt the minutes. Deputy Reeve Koken, thank you very much. Do we have a second? Councillor Petro, thank you. Any debate or discussion? And anyone wishing to vote opposed to adoption of the minutes? Seeing, hearing none, that carries. Thank you very much. Okay, I'm going to turn it over now to Lisa Tipman, who's going to take us through a discussion of the Population and Employment Projections Project Charter. There she is. Hello, Lise. The floor is yours. Go ahead.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, committee members. Today before us again, we have the Population and Employment Projections Project Charter. If you will recall, at our last meeting, we did go over the general scope of the that this charter is based on for the Population and Employment Projections project that we're working on. This charter is part of our project management process. And so what we did was we took the scope that was endorsed by the committee last time, and we transitioned it into this charter document, which allows us to identify a project timeline, risks, be clear what's in scope and what's out of scope, and generally create a standard format such that we can take it to the board and begin the project procurement process and assign a clear budget to this project. So we've identified that the project will be over the $75,000 procurement limit, at which point we must go for a public bid. So we will be doing that and posting this on Alberta Purchasing Connection once it's fully endorsed by the board. We are updating the population and employment projections, as we discussed last time, a little bit ahead of schedule. We had budgeted for them to be beginning next year to align with the growth and servicing plan 5-year updates. However, in discussions with the various tag groups that we work with, it was identified that it's important to begin these population and employment projections now in order to really support the success of the Regional Transportation and Transit Master Plan. So we are going to begin that project with approval of the board in 2024 and just move that budget that had been assigned to begin the project in 2025 into 2024 so that we can get that one going and allow the synergies to occur between the projects. Otherwise, the project scope, when we do the procurement process, we attach the scope that was endorsed by committee and reviewed by TAG, and then we attach the project charter as well, just so we're giving as much information as we can to consultants to get the best and most qualified folks on our team. With that, Mr. Chair, I'm happy to entertain and answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that summary. Okay, we'll open it up for questions or comments. Anyone have anything they wish to share, or any questions? Councillor Robinson, go ahead. Oh, you're on mute if you're...
Got to be the first guy every time, right?
Yeah, every time. All right, go ahead.
All right. My question was about the joint planning areas and context studies and stuff. And I see in the report, like there's some sort of, I guess, contemplation of the challenges that those not being completed might present to the projections. But like, I guess, like if those context studies don't have sort of the same level of detail about the land use planning that we've got for the rest of the growth plan, what do we anticipate the impact might be on sort of the accuracy of the estimates as they come in?
Yeah, thank you for the question, Councillor. Because we are beginning our journey on working through what those joint planning areas are, we do anticipate that the projections for those areas will be relatively high level and probably not very accurate, as we are just beginning to refine our vision for those areas. However, in order to understand the transportation aspects of the region and build a model for the region, there will be assumptions made in that project. So we thought the best and most accurate and most robust way to handle that would be to bring that spatial aspect of assigning projections into this project and allow land use planning experts and municipal representatives of various sorts and other key stakeholders that are outside of the organization that may have significant growth plans for the region, that would bring those experts together to really do the best job that we can at this time. We do have a lot more data than we did the last time when we did these projections, so we expect that that will also be helpful and will allow us to access more different kinds of modeling approaches and different ways of looking at how to do these kinds of projections. But at the end of the day, you know, we have the information that we have and we're going to do the best job that we can, but there will be a lot of caveats on the data. However, we do need it for the Regional Transportation and Transit Master Plan modeling. So it will be done through the modeling process, or it will be done through a more transparent and open process with experts and those who are more familiar with the development landscape. So for that reason, we've put that spatial aspect of those projections into this project.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. I have something else, but I'll see if someone else has already got it on their list, and maybe I'll come back at the end if it doesn't get asked.
Okay, that's great. Okay, we've got two on the list here. Councillor Carra, followed by Deputy Reeve Koken. GC, go ahead. Oops,
I had my thing unmuted the whole time. I'm glad I didn't mutter something under my breath. I want to say I think a lot about these, and maybe I just want to give like a little bit of an anecdote, and maybe that'll provoke a conversation or just some thinking. We are right now working hard to develop projections of how many people will be living along the Green Line in the city of Calgary. And we're doing this sort of frantically, and we haven't done this work as extensively or as comprehensively as we should have for years and years and years. And it's been a major sore spot for me. But circumstances are such right now that we're actually doing that work. And there's really sort of two approaches. And the original approach, which I think was a terrible approach, was we had a group out of Vancouver sort of do the original estimates, and they basically said, well, you know, Calgary's grown this much in the last 30 years, so we assume it's going to grow that much in the next 30 years. And roughly a quarter of all growth went into each quadrant of the city, and so the Green Line is going into the southeast quadrant, so we expect it to be in this catchment, and so we'll take a quarter of that, and then we expect a certain percentage of that growth that comes into that quadrant of the city to find itself in units along the Green Line. And you know, when you think about the fact that you're spending billions of dollars on infrastructure to try and create a green line that outperforms business as usual growth scenarios in terms of, you know, infrastructure costs and water use and all of those things, which is exactly what our regional plan is contemplating. It's saying that we can't afford a business as usual approach to growth, and we have to take a much more proactive approach to placing growth in certain places with thoughtful infrastructure to support it. I guess my question is, what do we see overall the relationship between sort of a reactive backcasting of what future growth looks like and a proactive driving of growth to the places where we want growth to go to maximize the ability to deliver on the cost savings and the infrastructure efficiencies and the economic development of the regional plan?
Great question. Please, I'll just take that one.
Yeah, thank you for the question, Councillor Craw. I appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, the growth plan does not contemplate a business as usual scenario. And the benefits of the growth plan come from doing something a little bit differently, as you noted. So our intention with these projections is really to start putting a greater knowledge and understanding of what those preferred growth areas can be, what they might need, and how we might be able to accommodate our growth in a way that really helps us to achieve the benefits of the growth plan. That's why we're doing this. So in the other side of it, we are also looking at the relationship between the population and employment projections, and then how we're going to do our key performance indicators and report back to the board on growth and change. So we're trying to start building our knowledge and information of those so we can start planning more around infrastructure, more around transportation, more around transit. And it's in its early days. It is a change. It's a shift in the development pattern of the region for sure. So I guess we will look forward to having some really qualified consultants come and help us with this, but our intent is to start building our knowledge of the future with the growth plan in mind. And that's how these projections are going to be different than what we did in the past, which, as you said, is more of a business as usual scenario. We've been building data. We've been getting the assessment understanding through that assessment data of where things are, what's built, and providing that opportunity for really good consultants to help us start thinking about what happens as we see the growth plan building out and how we can work towards the future that it's showing to us. So, and the benefits therein. So yeah, it is going to be different and probably quite challenging, but I think I hope we're up for the task and can start realizing the benefits of the growth plan.
That's a good answer. Thank you.
Thank you for that question and the good answer, Lise. Thank you. Deputy Reeve Koken, Don, you're up. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. I was just curious relative to that Since we need the population projection for the transit and transportation modeling, and we have to go through an RFP process, when do we expect this report to be complete?
Thank you. I'm just going to, I think we assume it will take about a year to complete the project. And if this charter is endorsed by the committee today, it would go on the next board agenda for approval. And then Jamie and I would put together the RFP and post it to Purchasing Connection, Alberta Purchasing Connection. Okay. And at that time, we would be hoping to begin the project in fall, early fall. Have some consultants in place kind of in September and move forward from there. So probably we had sort of talked about whether we would request the project to end just after summer next year, so a full year, or in July, and we agreed it would be better to set a project end date of just before the summertime. So okay. Right now it's set for July of next year, or July, okay. Yeah, next year.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that on the timing. Anything else we have? Any other questions anybody has on the population deployment? Councillor Robinson, go ahead.
I just wanted to ask about sort of, I guess, two things about the earlier projections and how they work with the potential future projections. Because I guess the first thing is, like, I went back and reviewed, and the 2018 stuff that we all talk about, that's this Rennie report. Am I reading the right? That's what we've got. Okay.
Yeah.
2018. And I mean, it's let's say not very detailed. I think it's a fair, I don't know if anyone else went back and looked at it, but like basically it just shows like each community, and like it assumes, I think, some changes to the growth rate based on some assumptions about sort of in-migration to Canada generally, and then to the Calgary metro region, and sort of a declining natural growth rate. And other than that, that's about it. Like, it's pretty, I don't want to say simplistic, but like you can see what's going on pretty fast. So the new report we're contemplating, I mean, it is going to be more like detailed to like not just the communities, right? Like, we're going to actually like have sort of, I mean, maybe for like Okotoks or like other smaller ones, it's like just gonna be the community, but like certainly for like parts of Okotoks, or even for parts of like the larger geographic ones like Rocky View and Foothills, like we're hoping these estimates are going to actually like detail within some sort of like geographic span, like a 10 square kilometer type space or something like that. Is that, am I understanding that right?
Yes, thank you, Councillor. Indeed you are. The Rennie report that we had done in 2018, so yeah, if you will transport back in time with me, at that moment, we had just become a region and we're working on the interim growth plan. And we needed some kind of a sense of what timeline for growth we were expecting, and you know, how we might grow as a region. And we were new, and we didn't have a lot of standard processes, and there wasn't a lot of trust, to be honest. So what we decided to do was update a previous report that the Calgary Regional Partnership had done. And that report was much more detailed and had a lot more in it. And so we used our ability to sole source to allow for a quick update of those previous CRP projections in order to get something going, so that we could get started on the growth plan and have some sense of direction that we could provide in terms of scope and scale of growth. So it was a very kind of, I don't know, weird is maybe not the right word, but it was kind of a weird report, and definitely didn't provide us with a lot of back data that we could use in our subsequent studies. And I often get requests for it, so we will definitely not be doing that again. We will be doing a new set of projections based on the new data we have with the growth plan in mind. And that growth, the spatial aspect of that is intended to align with the regional transportation zones, and that are in the provincial model, regional provincial model for transportation, and also in the City of Calgary's model, and so on. They work on these zones, and the zones vary in size depending on the level of density of population and jobs. But we will be looking for that spatial aspect this time. So it won't be by any particular grid-like system, but it will be based on transportation zones, and we'll have a chance to check the assumptions therein as a group through that project and that process.
Okay, that's reassuring. I guess then my other question about, like, if I may, Mr. Chair,
Go ahead.
is about the projections. And I mean, I think it's always good. And so I think maybe part of the answer will cover that you just gave covers some of this, but it's always like a bit good to go back and look at like how projections performed, right? And you know, those ones from 2018, I don't know what happened, but you know, just my quick review looks like some of them underestimated and some of them overestimated what was going to happen in the growth over the last 5 years. And do we know what those assumptions were that sort of drove those diverging sort of accuracy of estimates, and what the correction might be for the future at all?
Yeah, I mean, because we have such a different data environment now than we did then. So we are going to be able to access vastly different methodologies than were available before. So that's so we are expecting a different kind of process and a different kind of methodology for these projections this time around. And we're doing them population and employment at the same time, which is just a better way of doing it. We are going to do our best to come up with something that's going to be better, that's going to leave us with more data, that's going to help us really enrich our understanding of the region. And predictions are predictions, and they're always going to be wrong every single time. And I remember after we first approved them, I heard all the time that they were too high, and now I hear all the time they're too low. So, we'll never get it right, but this time we just have a lot more to work with, and we have a lot more collaboration on our team and with municipal experts and with folks in the region. So I expect it to be a much better process with a much better outcome.
Great. Thanks.
That's some great answers, Lise, and I think it's partly about a direction of travel in terms of, and I'm sure part of the process will be validating some of those assumptions that are put into the model, asking some of those questions, and yeah, the future is inherently and entirely unpredictable. Some things have happened between 2018 and now: pandemics, population collapse, incredible rebound. There's a lot, obviously, has happened. And so I imagine then we'll be dealing with some ranges as well, right? If this happens, you may expect X, and if that happens, you may expect Y, based on certain rationale. Is that a kind of a hand-waving general assumption on how this is going to go, Lise?
Yeah, in the scoping document where there's more details provided, and some of them are in here as well. We do have scenarios. Sometimes you do high, medium, and low scenarios for growth, expected growth. But to Councillor Carra's point, we're not really sure, because we have such a strong spatial aspect to this project, what high, medium, and low, like that high, medium, and low scenarios were maybe not appropriate. So we just left it as 3 scenarios to give the consultant more leeway to innovate and to be interesting in their approach. And so, yeah, I mean, we've done what we can do to kind of see. And then the other thing that we have very clearly in here that was really lacking in the last report is, what are the big influences federally, globally, provincially, locally, that we expect to influence these, so that we really have some idea of where they're coming from, but also some idea of, if these things change, how might we expect the outcome to change in terms of the employment and population growth over time. So we're really pushing the consultants to be as open and transparent with their rationale as possible, so that we can benefit from that knowledge and bring it forward into our other projects as well.
Great, that's great. Thank you very much for that. Okay, any other questions on the population employment forecast discussion? All right, and if there are none, I will ask for a motion that the committee recommend to the board for approval, the Population Employment Projections Project Charter. Do I have such a motion? We've got Mayor Snodgrass and Deputy Reeve Koken got in first. Okay. Any further discussion on that motion? And I will ask for a show of hands, please. All those in favor? And any opposed? None opposed, carries unanimously. Okay, that's wonderful. Thank you very much, Lisa. That's exciting stuff. We'll get that up to the board here in our next meeting and go forward from there. On to an update on CMRB drought response. Jamie Graves is going to join us. Water, obviously, always a hot topic in this part of the world. And notwithstanding some welcome rains, drought still a question and always a concern. So, Jamie, we'll have you take it from here. Go ahead.
Good morning to the committee. Thank you, Chair Clark. So I'm here to provide information on the CMRB drought response. And you may recall from board direction and sort of land use and servicing committee discussions in late 2024 or 2023 that we were to provide sort of administrative supports to the member municipalities and come up with a few regional messaging, which we've done, but also continue those discussions at the administrative technical advisor level, and then allow for some discussion at committee and board meetings. So that's what this agenda item is about. So to provide an update on recent discussions at the administrative level, generally they have pivoted from that drought response to the infrastructure incident that it was experienced by Calgary, and which is a water service provider to many of the member municipalities. So the city and some of the member municipalities serviced by the city of Calgary have temporarily sort of paused their drought-related communications and prioritized communications related to the emergency response related to that water main break and corresponding demand management actions. So that's what our conversations at the administrative level have focused on recently. The city and some of the member municipalities were leveraging processes, plans, and communication materials that were developed as part of the drought preparedness efforts related to water conservation and demand management. And they were essentially repurposed for the infrastructure incident. That work has come in handy. Member municipalities continue to monitor the demand trends throughout the remainder of the summer. They also are sharing some of the learnings and outcomes of demand management in those recent weeks with significant reductions in demand, although there was a lot of discussion and commentary that they are difficult to maintain. There were very large reductions in demand, so not really sustainable necessarily. Fortunately, this incident has generally been wrapped up, and so there were also some member municipalities sharing offers to the city of Calgary and others to support with bulk water to ease the demand pressures that were being experienced. And just generally, we ourselves, CMRB admin, continue to request frequent environment and protected areas updates to the technical advisory group, and the EPA have attended from time to time to share their updates on the conditions and how things are progressing. So more broadly, a quick update generally on the Bow River Basin conditions. Based on conditions to date in the basin, operational needs, and other observations, the MOU around water sharing agreements the signatories have made the decision not to activate the water sharing agreement in the Bow River Basin at this time. So just generally a summary of the conditions include that the basin continues to see precipitation in the normal range for this time of year, and those recent rainfall events have contributed to a lower demand for water. Key reservoirs are generally at normal levels for this time of year, with some TransAlta managed reservoirs below normal, just based on planned operational work and dam safety inspections, which happen from time to time. Stream flows are generally within the normal range, and in-stream objectives are being met at this time. What we know about The snow pillows is that they are still active, with some snow melt still expected in the coming weeks. And this information is sort of updated to about June 20th, which is the most recent knowledge that we have out there. However, just of note is that Environment and Climate Change Canada's long-range forecast does indicate that temperatures will be above normal province-wide, and predicts precipitation will be below normal for southern Alberta between the ranges of June to August. So something to be considerate of. Although recently we've had quite a bit of precipitation, that doesn't necessarily mean that will continue through the season. And of course, demand is increasing the hotter months and hotter conditions. We're heading into that portion of the season. So the signatories of the MOUs and water sharing agreements will continue to monitor those conditions. They are still meeting bi-weekly, and will be prepared to adjust if conditions worsen within the basin. Just generally speaking, as I mentioned before, in-stream objectives, this is around some of those drought management metrics that EPA is tracking. In-stream objectives are being met in the basin, and there are no reported shortages in the basin at this time. In terms of the level of demand and what is how providers are able to meet that demand. And again, as of sort of June 20th, most reservoirs in the Bow River Basin are filled, again, to within those normal ranges, with a few exceptions, as I mentioned, related to operations. Of note also is that irrigation districts are reporting that the significant rain in the past has caused substantial drop in demand, and the overall demand is down from the same time last year and previous years. But as temperatures rise over the coming weeks, demand is expected to increase over time. And the industrial MOU signatories have continued to implement their water restrictions where it's possible, again, related to safe operations of their processes. And so to sort of pivot away from that, we've been keeping that drought response update on every board and land use and servicing committee meeting agenda per that suggested response that was approved in February by the board. And given those conditions have evolved significantly since February, I'm just checking in to know if the committee prefers updates when conditions change or when they warrant, or not necessarily every single time the board or the committee meet. And so my question would be to the committee, like, are these updates helpful? Do you want to continue to hear about it? I'd be glad to receive feedback or tailor the updates if that's of interest to the committee. So with that, Chair Clark, I'm happy to receive questions or feedback.
Great. Thank you, Jamie. Appreciate that. We have a couple of hands up. We'll go Mayor Janung, Councillor Petro, and who else? Deputy Reeve Koken, in that order. So Jeff, go ahead.
Yeah, good morning. Thank you, Jamie, for the update. Sounds like things are trending in the right direction, but we're not out of the woods yet with the predictions of the fall and summer. But my question is related to drought, but a little bit maybe off on a tangent. So if you don't have an update on this, but you did ask the question if there's something you could tailor. I would appreciate if you can give us a bit of an update today, but even in the future, on the reservoir conversations from Alberta Environment. And I'm speaking specifically to the 3 dam locations, and I think they've dropped 1 and now it's down to 2. And obviously there's been significant conversations in our community in Calgary about the location and the impacts of either of those decisions. Do you have an update on that, or is that something you could include? And I know it's a bit of a, it's connected to drought, but I know it's a bit of a reach.
Yeah, no, that's no problem. I did receive an update from the province through their generic email that I had signed up for in the past. And so with that, I can provide that, given, as you were mentioning, the more removed from the set of options of the 3, and that the province had communicated that given the need to move in a timely manner to prevent floods and mitigate drought along the Bow River, EPA was not going to advance the Morley option any further at this time. And so the study does continue to assess the technical feasibility and carefully considering a variety of social, environmental, cultural, traditional land use, engineering, economic elements for those remaining relocated Ghost Dam and the Glenbow East options. So that engagement is focusing on those options at this time. I could maybe just, I'm going to have to kind of do something goofy here if you just don't mind me while I move things around. I'm driving today, so I'm doing all the things, and I'm going to post. What I'm going to do is share a timeline that came through the most recent update. So just bear with me as I stop sharing and then restart my sharing. So just in terms of timeline, you can see in this graphic that the phase 1 is complete, the phase 2, and that's the feasibility study and we're right here, sort of mid 2024. And then the decision from the government about whether to proceed to phase 3, that is still yet to be determined. And so there are a number of steps that are still required. So as I understand it, the report is kind of considering all the engineering and other elements that might be required to fully do that assessment of those feasibility options. So that is just kind of a sense of where that project is at. And then finally, the other piece that I can update you on is around phase 3, which sort of where are we in terms of that kind of trajectory. So the study team is reviewing that spring 2024 engagement results that was put out publicly. Mm-hmm. And at the completion of that, the feasibility study, the deliverable will include a summarizing report on that engagement, as well as the engineering findings and all those other elements that are considered. And then the decision will be made if the province will move to the engineering and regulatory approval process. And that's where a sort of deep dive will happen on the preferred option about, the sort of costing and the detailed design and all of that kind of work. So that's my summary. I hope that answers sort of the question. And if you would like additional information, I'm happy to reach out to EPA and see if they can provide additional information.
Yeah, no, I appreciate the detailed summary. Jamie, thank you. I didn't mean to put you on the spot today, and I do realize that it's a little bit of off on a tangent, but I think in the future, if we could just have that as part of our of an update here and there, even just as a touch point. I don't know how the rest of the committee feels, but Rockview, Cochrane, Calgary are all impacted by this decision, as well as I would hope everyone's probably concerned about the impacts on all three of us and the region. So just if we could add that. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
That's great. Thanks. Great question. Councillor Petro, Tina, go ahead.
Thank you. So through the chair, first of all, we were just commenting on how fortunate we are to have such incredible staff on the CMRB. Mm-hmm. Even just as you're going through your presentations, both Jamie, Lisa, Jordan, it's just incredible. And thank you so much for the updates and all the information. It's absolutely wonderful. My question is just really about the key messaging that we have in the documents. And I think we have really good key messaging, but we were having a conversation just about how cumbersome it is to get that much key messaging out and how many different categories of key messaging. So has there been any consideration of possibly working with communications teams, possibly working with provincial government's communications teams about taking these key messages and just finding one tagline that's easy to remember for people to kind of remind them about water conservation all of the time, not just in drought or water main breaks or anything like that. We're seeing so many water issues So have we had the conversation about bringing the communications teams together to just narrow it down to like, and I think one thing that came up was, the I Love Alberta oil slogan. Like, it's easy to remember, people jump on board, it's on everyone's windows and bumper stickers, and people just jump on board with it. So just wondering if that conversation has happened, or if that's something we could look at down the road, is just narrowing all that down into one easy to remember thing for residents.
Thank you, Councillor Petro. I love this idea. We haven't honestly done much with the the regional messaging to date, and that is a function of just getting ready for this big push as we're kind of heading into the summer season with a lot of committee meetings and kicking off projects and procurement and all of those things. So, but I love this idea. I'm definitely interested in seeing what the tag and communications folks that we've sort of engaged along with the water tag for now. So I'll check in with them and bring that to the tag group. Thank you for the suggestion.
Thanks so much. That's all my questions.
Great, thank you. All right, Deputy Reeve Kogan, Don, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Jamie. A lot of good information, general information for our use, for sure. I was just curious, on the irrigation district, you indicated that the demand was quite low this year, and naturally so compared to last year. What do they do with this extra water that they're not going to use? Have they got the ability to store it for use later on in the season, should the precipitation be quite a bit lower, as you're suggesting?
Yeah, thanks for the question, Deputy Reeve Kogan. The irrigators tend to, and especially during this, as they were preparing for drought and just in conversations with the other MOU signatories, were beginning to fill reservoirs very early. And so, as I mentioned, a lot of the reservoirs are in great shape, and especially in the Bow Basin. So they are essentially storing water, being ready for those extra hot conditions. So if needed, they can move water around within the systems that they have, and are well connected among the irrigators as well. So they work on that bi-weekly, in fact, often weekly. So that is sort of an ongoing conversation that happens just in just general course of, not necessarily in drought conditions, but just the way they operate together as a matter of doing business.
Okay, so they'll be storing, what I'm hearing, they'll be storing more than normal then, as just in case the year ends off on the dry side?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, great, good questions, thank you. Anything further for Jamie on drought and water? If there's nothing, I'll ask for a motion the committee received for information and update on the CMRB drought response. Mayor Janung, thank you very much. Do we have a second? Deputy Reeve Kogan, thank you. Any debate or discussion on that? And all those in favor of receiving for information? Any opposed? None opposed, carries. Thank you. Jamie, you're still up for a brief update on board strategic initiatives. Quite a lot going on, even though it's summertime. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Clark. Yep. So we provided additional information about the many initiatives that the board is working on right now, and sort of refreshed that table in order to truly reflect what is happening in 2024. Sort of the previous versions were really about, as we were wrapping up some of those other projects, the ESA, not drought, but the water table, the water roadmap update, as well as the scoping project for RTTMP. So now that those projects have now moved forward, we have refreshed this table, and you can see that they're updated. Oh, good. Thank you, Lisa, for bringing that up. I forgot that I hadn't shared. So just generally speaking, all the projects are sort of in the early stages, but are in good condition and are where they should be. So everything is looking green. And I think that's really all I had to update the board with on the, or on the committee with on this today.
Okay, thank you very much.
If there are any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Thanks, Jamie. Any questions on the strategic initiatives update? If there are none, I would invite a motion that the board receive for information an update on board strategic initiatives. Care to make such a motion? Councillor Robinson, thank you. Seconded, Councillor Petro. Any debate or discussion? And all those in favor? Any opposed? None. Carries unanimously. Thank you very much. Anything under round table here while we're all still together in this committee? And if not, I won't stretch it on beyond anything further than we need it to be. Okay, so we have a few meetings coming up. One more in July, Friday 19th on GoToMeeting, our board meeting in July. We generally will do online. It's often a little bit of a shorter meeting. For those of you who are on the board, our discussion today on population and employment projections is a bit of a précis on what we're going to be discussing. Land use servicing, we have no meeting in August, together online September 5th, Thursday. Governance, Friday the 13th of September, online 9 o'clock GoToMeeting. Your agenda has our strategic session on September 19th. As you all know, Jordan Copping is moving on, and we're in the process of searching for a new chief officer. Thought it made some sense to defer that strategic session for 1 month to the 18th of October. So we will be doing it then in person, more details forthcoming. And we've got, oh, Jamie, you've got a hand up there.
Yeah, I just wanted to update, I forgot to include in my just previous comments that we did receive note from Alberta Real Estate Foundation that were successful in the grant application. And so I'm excited to hot off the press report to the committee that we will be moving that project forward to the charter stage with the board at the end of this month because we were successful in that grant application.
Great news. Good work. Love to see some grant money coming in to do some important and interesting projects. So that'll be a good discussion at the board on the 19th as well. Anything else while we're all together? If not, we'll let you get on with your Thursday. Happy Stampede, everyone. Hope you get out there. Stay safe. Hydrate, sunscreen. Have a good time.
Have a good
Be
summer.
well. We will.
Bye, everybody.
See you all,
Thank you.
We'll see you soon.